And we're starting in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Epstein Files Review, episode 22. As always, if you're under the age of 18, we're going to have to ask you to leave because this is an 18 and up channel. And we will be starting with a recap of our last file, as always, which was this mirror view of the side of this villa bed. And we're going to jump right back down the rabbit hole, starting with our first file of the day. All right, so here's a wide view of that bed. It's got mirrors on both sides for some reason. But this is the main house that we were looking at. We've got that picture on the side of those women. I don't know if they were on a dock. Somebody pointed out in the comment section of the last episode that it looked like their hands were bound. So hopefully we get a closer look at that picture. I'm going to have to analyze that one as well to confirm that. All right, there's the picture. I don't see any bound hands, or maybe they're bound in the front. Maybe this one's got bound hands. Maybe we'll get another picture of that. But here's the bathroom. Moving right along. We're not going to spend too much time on any files that we have already seen images of or that we've already analyzed. All right, here's a little closet here and a bathroom. Looks like they got a scale on the floor there. Moving right along. All right, here's a closer look at that closet. We've got some shoes, some more throw shirts. I don't know what you call these things, but those things women throw on a cold day. We saw those in those makeshift closets as well. Throw jackets, maybe? I don't know. But moving right along, some suitcases. All right, so here is the view looking into the bathroom from inside of that closet. All right, we've got a wall here with some plants. Maybe this is a shower, perhaps. That's a strange spot to have plants. Or maybe this is a toilet. We just saw the toilet, so it can't be the toilet. You got some toiletries here. Nothing too crazy. All right, so in the last episode, I said hopefully we make it out to this terrace because we saw images of it when we were looking at the house, but we didn't necessarily get out here, so it looks like they're about to do that. All right, so we've got some surfboards or wakeboards, whatever you call it. I'm not really a water person. You've got fan, some furniture there. Well, I like being in the water and on boats, but not necessarily surfing, just to clarify. All right, so you've got a little patio area here. Don't see anything of any pertinence to what we're doing there. Another view of that, so we're not going to spend too much time on these files. Like I said, we're here for the nitty-gritty. There's a wide view of that terrace. All right, here's some waterware. Moving right along. All right, so this must be the area we saw from the other window where we said there wasn't that much walking space, maybe room for 2 people. This would be this area. Got like a bullhorn thing going on there. All right, and here is the view that we saw from the kitchen of that grill. Another view of that walkway there. Looks like a little birdhouse there. Maybe it broke. And another picture of the grill. As I always say, we have to get through every file, even the mundane. Okay, so we've got a walkway here down the stairs. Looks like we're leaving this villa, because we're here for Epstein's allegations, not because we are on a real estate venture. All right, so we got a little eating table there. Here's a little table here in the kitchen area. Moving right along. Some seashells. Got a side view of the kitchen there. We are 20% through today's episode. We're looking for the gems. All right, so there's another look at that table. All right, here's a look at the kitchen. We're pretty much mining at this point. We dig till we find the gems. You got to get through the dirt, right? All right, another view of this table here in the laundry room. You can see from the corner there. Another side view of the refrigerator from the kitchen table. We are 25% through today's episode. There's another view of that table. There's a view of the washing machine and the front door there. Another side view of the washing machine. Oh, and I got to point out in the comments section, someone pointed out that there was no sound in episode 3. I wish they would have commented on it earlier. I mean, we're about 18 episodes past that, but I will be going back and redoing that episode, so look for that as well. That'll probably be the next episode I do before we move forward, just for complete transparency and to make sure everybody's up to speed. So here's a view of the kitchen, nothing too crazy there. And kudos to all those that actually watched episode 3 without sound. That one still got views, but we will be redoing that one, and we can do our analysis of it again, and you guys can put your comments on what you think. It should be interesting going back and reviewing that one now that I've already seen it. So, all right, so here's another view of this kitchen. Looks like got a little bit of bottle of vodka there, some cutting boards, nothing too crazy. We are 30% through today's episode. All right, there's the laundry room again. Like I said, we're going to fly through any files that don't have any pertinence. If there isn't a clue in it or a document, then we're really not going to spend too much time on it. There's a sink in the bathroom, but we do have to go through every file. All right, ironing board, side view of that living room. You've got a bedroom there. All right, little area here for seating. A lot less paintings in this house. We've seen a few, but not nearly as many as we saw in the New York house. Side view of the TV in this living room here. Another side view of that ironing board looking into the bedroom. All right, this is leading to the front door. So you're in the living room area looking through the kitchen. All right, we got a beam in front of this living room. All right, you've got the side of the TV here. And maybe this is a scale or something like that. Another view of this living room, moving right along. We are 40% through today's episode. There's the living room. All right, we got that beam in front of the ironing board. Another view of the TV from the living room. We're just going to breeze through these files that don't have any pertinence, just because we have to look at every file. Another view of the living room there. And for all those that are dedicated to seeing every file just like me, you have to bear your way through this as well. So we're in this together. Here's a side view of the living room. But it's funny how we'll have these mundane photos in the files, and then all of a sudden we'll just come upon something that makes it all worth it. All right, little trash bag there. I don't know what that is in that box there. A disheveled bed. There's another view of that bed. And there's a closet. Looks like it's got a pillow in it. All right, here's a main walkway there. And there's that closet again. We are 50% through today's episode. Well, there's nothing of any relevance in the 100 files that we're going through. The videos tend to be a little shorter. All right, I don't know what that is. Looks like one of those little speakers and some cough syrup, perhaps. And there's that ironing board, side of the bed. All right, there's that trash bag on the side there. Front view of the bed. Moving right along. Another view of this closet. We might set a record with how fast we get through these 100 files today, because there's nothing of real importance so far. We've got a shower. All right, there's this tree in the doorway, so perhaps we're leaving this villa, going on to something else. All right, there's another view of that tree, that little eating area. All right, the undercarriage of the terrace, a little igloo there. And there's a view of the island, someone's shoes, appear to be Nike Air Force Ones for you shoe fans. And we are 60% through today's episode. Another view of that tree in front of that table there. Wide angle of the eating area on the patio. Another view of that table. It's a pretty nice sized table there. All right, so we've got some luggage. Perhaps there was some travel. Says St. Thomas there. Mila Trestiza. I don't know if that's the person's name or if that's a moving right along. All right, so now we've got something. This is Mila Trestiza. Someone's got their hands out. So it's like we were just saying, right? The files will be mundane, and then all of a sudden you've got something. So let's try to figure out who this person is. There's some redaction. Captain's medical course. Qualifications. Experience. So this is a resume. Perhaps she was applying for some sort of position, or perhaps this is her luggage. And if this is her luggage and she didn't live there, then why is it there? There's a 1-800 number in the background. The tickets, let me see if I can get some more information off of the ticket here. All right, Air New Zealand. So this is overseas. Let me zoom out a little bit because there's some bags here. These are women's bags. So these are women's belongings. Looks like there's a makeup brush there and a resume and a ticket from New Zealand. For 2 seconds, I thought this was someone's legs, but then I saw there's the latex gloves in the arms. So yeah, once again, more weird stuff, and it just pops up. So you just got to keep plugging along. Let's try to see what this is right here. I don't know if that was a picture of someone. Looks like a picture of someone. Can't really make it out. Is this a passport? That might be a passport. It's very odd. Because if you have the person's resume, you're not going to have their belongings as well unless they were staying there. And if she was, who is she? There's another bag here. This looks like perhaps some a male's belongings. It looks a little bland, just grays and blacks. Looks like kind of like a guy's clothing. All right, here's another view of that luggage. I would like to see more pictures of this person's stuff. So it was a person, Mila Trestiza. Her luggage is there. Her resume is there. So I don't know if she was a guest coming from New Zealand or what. Here's another view of that desk. There's the little St. James boat log. I don't know if Greater St. James perhaps is the GSJ. All right. Another look at that high-end camera there and the flashlight. So that's a duplicate file. All right, so here are, we assumed he was doing some renovations because there's lots of ladders. You see the modifications, roofing project, building project, maintenance and workshop building project. So he was working on the property. As you can see, there's the blueprints for that. All right, once again, stuff just pops up. So now you've got random people's IDs, social security numbers, and passports. Who are these people? So this person's name's been redacted. Let me zoom out. It says current, does that say current passport? Then you've got the person's ID. So was he seizing the documents of people that were coming in, or are these people missing? Because here you have not only a driver's license and a debit card, but a resident card. So this is a permanent resident card. You've got someone's birth certificate. This is odd. This is really odd. And this is the stuff, it's funny, we were just talking about this. One minute you're looking at pictures of sinks, and the next thing you know, you've got something super suspicious like this. So here's another passport. Let me see if I can make out what country that is. If anybody knows what country that passport is from, let me know. I don't want to zoom in too much because it's going to just blur it even further. And I believe this might be another. Oh, this is a marriage certificate, I believe. Hopefully we've got some close-up pictures because I'm starting to recognize the photographer's style. They take that wide out shot and then they have the close-up. So now we've got some close-ups. So yeah, it did say current passport. That means that this would be the passport this person would be actively using. It's Anthony Philip Baker from New Zealand. They got his name and everything. They just, I guess they just redacted his driver's license. Excuse me, his address, driver's license. All right, so you have his certificate of live birth. Let me see if I can zoom in here. Something Tristeza. Trying to grab as much information as I can here. But with this June 21st, 1973. Okay, so this is in the Republic of the Philippines. We've got Mila Laxon Tristeza. So this is the person whose luggage we were just looking at. This is her social security number. So you've got her luggage, you've got her resume. So I don't know if these people were coming for work, but all of a sudden their stuff's here, their passports. These are personal belongings that would stay with an individual. Anthony Philip Baker. Someone should look to see if these people are even alive, because you don't just leave your stuff. And this is from various countries here. You've got New Zealand. We don't know where Miss Tristeza is from, but her luggage. And okay, so here we have Tristeza. You've got her debit card, a Florida driver's license, Republic of the Philippines. So you've got New Zealand passports, you got passports from the Philippines, you got a permanent resident card, which is redacted, and her picture is redacted on this, even though we already know what she looks like from the previous file, so that doesn't make any sense. We already know what she looks like. And you've got this certificate of marriage. So I don't know. Okay, you've got Philip Anthony Baker on the marriage certificate. And we may have to go back to the previous file just to make sense of this. Mila Laxon. There he is from New Zealand. City Hall. I believe that says Mila Laxon, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe we can get a close up of that. So is this his wife? Okay, you've got some prescriptions here. I want to go back to that previous file to see if Mila Laxon is on. Her social security card is photoed with his passport. So were these people together? Things just got interesting. All right, so there is the prescriptions. And like always, guys, since we're all on this case together, we're all investigating. If you guys saw anything in those last files that I didn't, please point it out if you can make that connection. We're connecting these dots together. So Ann Rodriguez, I don't know if that's the prescriber or the person the prescription was for. There's another close-up of the bottle. I think the motivation for just dumping these files like that, I'm glad I'm able to show people how you can go through them in order because there was no table of contents, just a search bar. So I'm assuming it was set for people to just be discouraged by looking at it and not being able to look at it in any particular order. But now that we've figured this out, there's a shredder. We can start piecing together everything and know that we'll be able to see everything in its entirety, except for obviously those files that are missing. And we've had a few of them. So here is another employee log with all of the employees here. And I think I said it before, if they wanted to know what was going on the island, they need to talk to all of these people right here. They need to talk to this housekeeper, the landscaper, the carpenter, because all of these people probably saw things. I don't know if they were threatened, if they were going to have their visas pulled or, their social security cards. Because I know oftentimes, especially when it comes to trafficking, they would keep their documents so they have control of the person. So if you have their documents, they can't go anywhere, they can't do anything. So I find it rather interesting that he has all of these documents for these people. All right, so this is just random stuff, permits, paperwork. What does that say? Permits for roads, cottage, vehicle permits. So this is just maintenance stuff, I guess, for properties. Moving right along. And then it's funny, we jump right back to these photos of closets, and they just throw that right in the middle. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, but we're going to find that needle. All right, here's another view of the side of that bed. Another view of the bed. And that's why you've got to watch these videos till the very end, because you never know when we're going to make a sharp turn. I don't know when we're going to make a sharp turn. All right, here's the side of the TV there, because we're all discovering this together, live time. All right, there's that beam in front of that living room there. Lots of duplicates, and I think that was intentional as well. All right, here's that walkway. Basically, to give the overall view, there's nothing to see here. We know that the people that released these files, the FBI, they've been in question as far as why not only the victims are being redacted, but also the perpetrators. All right, so here's that table in the kitchen again. But we're here to make sense of it. There's a wide view of the kitchen. So we're going to keep plugging away all 3 million files. Some cabinets in the sink there. There's another picture of the washer and dryer. And there's the kitchen with the walkway. It's funny when we jump into those kinds of files, we are 90% through today's episode. You think it's going to continue in that route, but we kind of jump right back into here's a shot of a bathroom and a closet. But we're not going to let that deter us from what we're here for. Like I said, we're minors. All right, here's the bathroom in that cubby area again. Another side view of that bed. So we still can't see those arms, those hands, to see if they're bound. Some clothes in the chair there. All right, here's another side view of that bed. This is where we started today's episode on this side, I believe, with that view of that side mirror. Moving right along. All right, here's that front terrace, the side of the TV, and of course, we've got our binoculars. We've got the luggage that is now in question, in high question. It's funny how we were seeing random bags earlier, and I was just assuming that they were Jeffrey's or Ghislaine's, but now that we've seen some of the contents of these bags, okay, now it just got weirder. So you've got that one person's debit card. I believe that was the woman's. And you can't say, well, people didn't know what was going on here. Clearly, the New York Post, his safe of evil, Epstein kept locked stash of underage pics in his house. So this is why they were going for the servers. They were going for the laptops. So if you know you're in a house with a predator, then why are you there? I mean, this links both of these individuals. Her debit card is right near this article, so it makes me question the timeline. Are these things that were found after all of this took place? I'm assuming they weren't staging this setup. I would hope not, but it kind of alludes to the fact that this person may have been here after all of this stuff started unfolding. Very, very strange. All right, so we have a close-up of a printer for some strange reason. All right, here's another wide view. See if we can take a look at this photo here. Can't really see it, but it looks like that's an arm. Or it's a statue of some kind. But this definitely looks like a person. Here's a wide view of that living room again. We are 99% through today's episode. Here's a wide view of that kitchen. Lots of duplicates. We already saw this. And the last file of the day, file 2200. And that is of a window. And I think we saw this file as well, where you had the hose there. Yeah, this is the front door that we started in this villa. Remember, we worked our way through. This was the front door there. So that'll be all for today. Well, for this episode, as promised, I'm gonna redo episode 3 so you guys can get that audio, and then we will be moving forward to episode 23, where we'll be starting at file number 2200. And I've kept you guys for 27 minutes. Not the longest episode, but like I said, there wasn't a lot of meat on the bones until we got into some really suspicious things with that suitcase and those birth certificates, marriage certificates, that not magazine, that newspaper, as well as the passports, the social security numbers. Very, very suspicious stuff. But before I leave, I want to thank all of you guys, the tens of thousands of views, the multiple subscribers. Continue to subscribe, continue to repost, share on all of your social media, your Twitter, your TikToks, your Instagrams, your YouTubes, all of those things, because we have to get the word out and let people know that we can look at these files and people are investigating and they want to know what really happened. I appreciate every last one of you. I try to respond to every comment, and please continue to put any gems or any connections that you guys find that I didn't point out in the episodes. Put those in the comment section, because I always go back and revisit those and investigate it myself. And I'm sure other people reading the comments are going back and looking at those bits of evidence as well. So, as always, I appreciate you guys. Have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care.